Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home.
Today we have a beautiful Zippo Slim Scrimshaw Whaler lighter that I recently traded for. This lighter was made in 1979. It's the first time I remember running across this, but apparently in 1979 there were two date stamps, two slashes on the left and one on the right, and alternatively one on the left and two on the right. Either way, I believe those are both legitimate stamps, and I'm not certain, but if I recall from different discussions I have seen in the Facebook lighter groups over the years, I don't think that either one of those stamps is necessarily more prevalent. Traded a brand new Cygnus for this Zippo Slim, and it's a very nice, beautiful lighter that I'm glad to own. But as you can see, when we remove this Flint spring and Flint spring screw, the lighter looks pretty clean. You can see some dust build up there on the inside of the chimney. I think that is due to the flint degrading and turning to dust. There was some dustiness in the inside of the case, and as you can see, once the Flint spring screw is removed, you still have tension on the file wheel. So it appears as though the flint has degraded and has one way or another lodged itself in there. So now we are going to see if we can remove it. But in order to keep the dustiness away from our wadding felt pad and the rest of these expendables as much as possible, we are going to go ahead and remove them before cleaning up the insert and clearing out the tube. So we'll go ahead and remove our wadding. It's 2 pieces of cotton so far. And then the third. And we'll go ahead and pull the wadding out from behind the tube. Easy enough. We should be able to get that all back in there, reuse it, and hopefully reuse the wick as well. As I said, it does appear that there is some dirtiness, some dust, some other buildup in the insert. We'll go ahead and clean that out and then decide what we're going to do with this dusty wick. Interestingly, when I was working on the pipe lighter insert the other day, wondering whether or not that non-copper braided wick was original from 1996, here we have a copper braided wick in a lighter from 1979. At that time, I don't believe the inserts were marked specifically for the year like the lighters were. I don't think that started taking place until maybe the mid to late 80s. So the first thing we're going to do here is hopefully clear this old degraded flint from the tube. I'm going to put something down on my work surface here to hopefully keep the debris from getting all over everything. You can see there where that flint has sort of mushroomed out, and we'll just see how hard or soft or what exact condition this flint is in. You can judge by how far the drill goes up in the tube exactly where it is coming to rest, and we are a little bit short, so keep spinning the drill here. And this is an opportunity where I wish I had my drill, but I do not. So we'll just keep working it back and forth by hand. And the wheel is now turning. See if maybe got plenty of dust coming out, but the flint is not falling on out. So I think what is going on with this particular lighter is that flint has degraded, but not exactly turned to dust. So that is the flint that is making contact with the wheel there, not the drill. So you can see that the drill is pushing that flint up in there. And there that flint finally dropped out. So you can see where the back end of that flint looks good. The front end, where it had been exposed to oxygen and maybe moisture and whatever else, was definitely degrading. So that is what a flint looks like that's left inside of a Zippo lighter for, what, I guess somewhere in the neighborhood of 43 years, most likely. Now we'll go ahead and get this cleaned up. I'm going to soak it in some lighter fluid. You guys know that I normally use isopropyl alcohol, but today I'm going to use lighter fluid because I'm going to try to launder the end of that wick a little bit, try to clean up the dirtiness and dustiness. I don't think it's ever been lit. I think that is simply the dust and flint residue that has taken place over time. As you can see, it has sort of coated the inside of that with the same color that you've got here on the wick. To me, it looks like dust rather than soot. There is some debris on the file wheel where you can see the flint had degraded and attached itself to the wheel at one point. So we'll clean the insert up after we try to do a little bit of cleaning here on the wick. Don't necessarily need that whole wick in the fluid. Definitely don't need it completely saturated. I just want to kind of scrub it a little bit and hope that a good deal of that dust will relieve itself of the wick. Hard to say with it being wet, but just there it does appear that that wick is cleaned up a little bit and shed some of that filthiness of the dust that had settled up in that windscreen. We will set that aside. Shouldn't take too long to dry. And then we will soak our insert. I hear people talking about using lighter fluid for a solvent to clean your lighters all the time. It's not something that I've really done. Maybe I'm wrong nowadays. Prices are a little bit different since the pandemic. But I think that lighter fluid is a little bit more expensive than isopropyl alcohol. One of the reasons why I've always used the isopropyl. Back before supply chain issues, you could get the isopropyl for a couple of dollars a pint at Walmart, those kind of places. But nowadays, it is a little bit more expensive, but so is the Zippo fuel. Get our toothpick here and some common household disinfectant cloths that we will use to finish cleaning this insert up, getting it dried up, cleaned out, and all that. Inside of the insert looked pretty good. We will blow it all out here in a minute. The first thing we're going to do is wrap one of these cloths around the flat end of a toothpick and then run that toothpick around the inside of this insert to make sure that we get all that debris off the inside walls of that insert or of the chimney so that we don't foul up our wick again once we get it back in there. You can see a little bit dirty looking, a little bit rusty looking, and none of that is really a surprise when you consider how old the lighter was. The flint was obviously in the process of degrading if it had not totally degraded, which it obviously hadn't, but had definitely spread its dust around that insert or around that windscreen. So we're going to get all that mopped up as best we can. Mentioned before, cleaning lighters is a lot like cleaning gun barrels. Just keep cleaning until your cleaning cloth comes out white. If you pull it out and there's more debris on it, then that indicates you've still got work to do. Or at least to a reasonable level, or maybe you just get tired of cleaning and decide that it's clean enough. Looks like the dust on the file wheel has pretty much come off with the cleaning that we have done. Clean it up the best we can. Move things out of the way here, and we're going to hit it with a little bit of canned air. That will give us a clean insert which we can reinstall our expendable parts. There you see the wick, which still shows a little bit of evidence of the dust. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it does look better than it did before we started. So we will reinstall this into our lighter, into our insert, the hole that we are aiming for there. Spin that in there. Hold that into place. Get our wick pushed back down toward the top of the insert. Go ahead first with the piece of wadding that is going down the slim side or the back side of the tube. Get that into place. Now our first ball of wadding, which this particular lighter had 3, so we would just use those for the layers. As you can see, and there we have our insert re-wadded, re-wicked, the insert cleaned up, the chimney file wheel free. We will reinstall our felt pad and replace the Flint spring and Flint spring screw. Get that screwed all the way back down, because if you don't, then you end up dragging it at the top or leaving an indentation where the screw is at on the bottom. So there is a new 1979 Zippo Slim with the Scrimshaw Whaler. Don't believe this lighter has ever been struck. Thrilled to currently add this to my collection, and we will just see what becomes of it as time passes. Until next time.